Live.
Yep.
And honestly, this is a very special one for a few reasons. One being that this is honestly for me the first time doing one of these things actually in person. So that's a privilege. And another privilege we have today is to be joined by Felipe from Instantly, who is honestly somebody that's been doing cold emailing for a very, very long time. And yeah, Felipe, I'll let you give a quick intro about yourself, and yeah, welcome.
Yeah, no, first of all, the privilege is all mine. Thank you for having me here in your office. Awesome office. You guys are automation pros. Like I have to say, if there is someone automating LinkedIn that is doing at this scale, like I'm just very impressed. Second
Thank
thing, lots of respect for what you guys are doing. You guys definitely know what you're doing. And yeah, basically, I've been doing Outbound for 10 years. And I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to share here like everything that could help you guys like get better reply rates. Improve your overall workflows. I think something we have more than 35,000 paying customers. So yeah, happy to
Wow. Those are some big boy numbers.
Yeah. We stay humble. We stay humble.
Yeah. Walk lightly but carry a big stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, having access to 35,000 customers gives you access to 35,000 sets of data.
Yeah.
That really gives you the bird eye perspective of everything that's going on. And honestly, there are a lot of things I want to talk with you about. I want to pick your brain because you guys are the first to notice trends, to know the latest updates and that work and don't work for cold emailing. So this is honestly going to be very fun.
Yeah, and same for me. It's going to be a good opportunity to learn about LinkedIn. I've been very focused on emailing, but one thing we're hearing a lot from our clients, from agencies, and from some of you guys out there is that combining multiple channels is the best way to get results. So I think this is a good opportunity to hear from two different perspectives how synergies and just working together could get better results. So,
yeah, excellent. So I think a lot of people have already joined. I see some welcome comments here. Yeah, we can kick things off.
Yeah, you think we can also answer questions from the community later? That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I always say, like let's leave like 15 minutes at the end for the Q&A, but I'm always like prompted as we talk to kind of just like pick and choose certain questions. So guys, this is your unique opportunity to really talk to somebody and ask all the cold emailing questions you have. Now, on that topic, I'd like to see, well, a show of hands is going to be a little difficult, but a comment would work. Who here is doing cold emailing? And if you're doing cold emailing, drop us a comment, just write emailing so we see how relevant this topic is for the audience, because I think it's going to be quite relevant. So yeah, tell me, Felipe, so like you've been doing cold emailing for 10 plus years. Instantly started what, like 2.5, 3 years ago? 3 years ago now. How has the landscape evolved, or I don't know if evolved is the best word, but changed compared to when you guys started 3 years ago compared to now?
Like, yeah, it's always changing, and I think this is pretty much for every single marketing channel. I think people who are doing, let's say, Facebook or Meta ads 5 years ago, it's totally different to how Meta works today. So every channel evolves. And that's why sometimes you see stuff like cold email is dead or like LinkedIn outreach is dead. And then you hear like some of these trends. So I think that's why I think what matters the most is who is able to adapt and overcome obstacles quickly. So it's just about adapting. And that's why I want to highlight, the first thing I want to highlight when we started this stream is how you guys, like I wish you guys could see this, but in their office, like they have like some cool stuff. I don't know if I'm able to say, but just I can like they have like some phone farms and like they automate a lot of social media stuff, so they know what they're doing. So this is what's important, I think, in any marketing channel you're doing, is just the ability to innovate and adapt. So I will say that every year there is a big change in the cold email space, from like Google banning something to like Outlook. I think it was last year that they were like, flagging a lot of emails to spam. Well, the whole concept of email warm-up was born because of how difficult it was to land on the inbox. Like 10 years ago, when I would send cold emails, from a single email account, you could send like 2,000 emails very easily. And this just changed so much that, yeah, that's how we were born. Then the concept of rotating inboxes was born, because most of cold email providers, like 3-4 years ago, they will basically charge you a subscription per email account. And then we realized that in order to scale your sending, you need to buy multiple email accounts. And I think something similar happens with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn kind of restricts people now on how many messages you can send per profile. And you were telling me that you guys are working on something to solve that. So the whole concept of rotating inboxes and helping people to scale was born because of how the market evolves. And then we just keep innovating, keep adapting. And yeah, that's basically how things just keep changing. But I just to encourage people out there, always be willing to learn, and don't feel like by just copy and pasting a strategy, it's just going to work for the next 5 years. And unfortunately, that's not how it is. So yeah.
I mean, definitely, like the industry that we're in, innovation is a big part of it. Yeah. We've been able to see this through different social media platforms. We started in the Instagram waters, and we've evolved into LinkedIn as well. And even when you look at LinkedIn outreach back in like 2018, 19, when we were not looking at it that actively, but I know that, like, you said you were able to send 2,000 emails from one mailbox. Well, back then you were able to send thousands of connection requests per week.
Those were the golden years. It was like crazy.
Like, how can you not succeed as a business? Like, you just find one of these solutions, you just blast emails or LinkedIn messages. You get very high reply rates, because of course, when we look back, like a lot of our inboxes, both on LinkedIn and on emailing, were a lot less there was a lot less trash in them. Now these seem to be bloated with so much content.
And also I want to add there that it's not just email and LinkedIn. Like I feel like we are competing against anyone who is doing marketing. Even Netflix is our competitor, because today it's a fight against who is grabbing the attention from people. So it's a constant fight on the attention span of people. And sometimes I might get an email that I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then literally, like, all of a sudden I get an Instagram notification or something, and I lost the focus on what I was reading, and then I just lost it. But then if I receive a follow-up email, I'm like, oh yeah, right, I'm supposed to buy this, So that's why I always tell people, don't give up on the following up, whether it's on a single channel or multiple channels. It's because people's attention is everywhere. So today you are just fighting against, how can I grab the attention of my potential audience?
100%. I mean, and I was talking about this in the previous live, that I really feel like our brains are starting to get like trained to receive follow-ups. And I don't know if it's because I'm in the marketing space, but like whenever I see somebody hitting me up multi-channel and when it's automated, and like when the timing is good, I'm like, oh, these guys are good, So 100%. I mean, one of the reasons why I like LinkedIn outreach and just LinkedIn for lead gen in general is because, for me, with cold emailing, you just have basically the option to send them an email. And, you send an email and you can send follow-ups, but like LinkedIn gives you the option to kind of warm that lead up. So like, you send them a connection request, they accept the connection request, hopefully. So that's like the first step in the door. And then you have the option to like react to some of their posts in a few days, to endorse some of their skills. And then like when you come to a stage where you're pitching something or sending them a message, you've already kind of warmed things up. The main issue with LinkedIn outreach is purely scalability, I think. And that's the main advantage of emailing.
Well, there is also another benefit of LinkedIn outreach. And it is that it's easier to build trust with people because you can do the research more quickly. So for example, if you receive an email from a person you never heard about, you have to go to Google, check their company. But with LinkedIn, it's like you click on their profile and you immediately know who they are, where they work. You can read up everything about their company, see their posts. So you immediately can do this scanning on, whether you can trust this person or not as, as a potential seller. So I think that also makes a big difference. But also, like you said, the issue with LinkedIn today compared to emailing is that it's much easier to scale your sending. So, often people tell me, should I pick up a channel? Like, which one will work better for me, I usually tell people just combine both, because I think they complement each other. And we go back to this concept, which is getting people's attention. You're basically bombarding people on different fronts, so you remind them of your existence, and that will just increase the chance of success.
So I agree. Like, it's always good to combine both, but like also one more thing I think that's worth considering is the TAM. So the total addressable market.
Yeah.
So depending on your outbound campaigns and depending on how big of an audience you are looking to reach out to, one might be a better choice than the other. So like if you have a big total addressable market, then in that case, emailing as of now is for me the obvious option, the primary option. You should and you can do LinkedIn outreach as well. But if you're looking to outreach like 500,000 people or 1 million people in your town, then with LinkedIn, we hit the scalability issue, which in cold emailing you overcome by renting mailboxes and using different and just like scaling horizontally, so to speak. Speaking of mailboxes, I've seen that there have been some turmoil on that front. I saw that Maildoso had some issues recently, and I know a lot of people from our community asked us about this.
Yeah.
So, do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit more info?
Of course. For me, like, transparency is the number one element about business in general. And actually, it wasn't just Maildoso who was impacted. We also have issues sometimes. I think what's important is the number one thing that I want everyone to remember is that there are changes in the space happening all the time, basically every time. So every single year I hear the word cold email is dead or this thing is dead. And once again, we go back to the ability of a company to innovate, adapt, and basically serve their clients, right? So that is the number one criteria I always tell people when looking at a provider, a strategy, or whatever. Unfortunately, in the past weeks, we have multiple companies actually impacted. Email infrastructure companies, I think that's more specifically. So Maildoso was impacted. We also had some issues. There was another company called Superwave that was also impacted. And for different reasons, right? They were absolutely different reasons. So at the end of the day, I think what matters the most here is that having a strategy that diversifies your email infrastructure, your outreach channels, your database providers, like the more diverse your strategy is, the safer it will be, especially if you have an agency or if you, let's say, have 10 or 20 or 100 clients depending on you. I think this is applicable for everything in life, right? You cannot just rely on one thing for success, because unfortunately issues are going to happen. Now, like, at least I can speak from our company. We usually solve these issues in just a matter of time, in hours. Whenever we have issues, we make sure we compensate our clients. We give them like 3 months of service. We find ways to make sure that they're not impacted, and we work on preventing these issues from happening again. But I think anyone who tells you my channel is going to solve all of your problems in your life, it's going to work perfectly forever, it's absolutely lying. I think we had AWS, I think it was Cloudflare. I think this week was down, and a lot of providers were down. So no one is safe. We're talking here about multi-million-dollar companies that can get impacted. So it's just part of the game. So
it is. And I mean, on one hand, I completely agree with not putting all the eggs in one basket, especially if your business depends on it. If it's it's just not smart doing it. So again, we're back at it's always good to combine if you're doing cold emailing, complement it with LinkedIn outreach, but also look at explore other methods, because this is an evolving space.
Yeah.
And I know there are some, so as the issues we just discussed about with the email infrastructure, the same thing to a certain extent happens from time to time on LinkedIn as well. Because LinkedIn at one point, they say, okay, we're going to make sure that these, because the biggest thing LinkedIn wants to kind of protect themselves from is having accounts scraping their network. because LinkedIn's value is in their data. And they want to be the one monetizing that data. It makes sense because it's their platform. So a lot of these tools that depend on LinkedIn for either lead generation or for especially data scraping and data enrichment are going to be impacted by this. So obviously there is a third-party dependency here, both on emailing, but the same goes for SEO. I know because we do a bunch of that as well. Like Google shoots an update, and all of a sudden, like our SEO numbers go down, and then like we're like raising like red flags. Like our SEO team is jumping, like we're looking what to do, and then all of a sudden, like we start recovering and we recover. So this is, I think, something that's very present in the entire industry, in the entire marketing industry in general. So we have to adapt to this. Let me just see if we have some cool questions we might want to pick out.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions and comments.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, okay. So we're gonna have to do a proper Q&A at the end. Okay. So let's see. Well,
yeah.
Want to do this one?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No. Yeah. Let's do. Excuse me, guys. This one. All right. What is the current conversion rate with cold emailing? Could you please let me know the minimum number of emails required to generate 20 leads per month?
Okay. Yeah, I want to start with this one because it's a good start. Like it's a very broad question. But yeah, overall, there is not really like a magical formula. Like there is not like an answer that like serves for every industry. The main components, so the way I like to divide cold emailing, and this is also applicable for LinkedIn as well, by the way. The number one factor for success for cold email is your offer, and for LinkedIn as well. If your offer is good, you're going to absolutely kill it. And then based on that, your reply rates could easily be like 10%. Like some of the campaigns that I sent for some people, because I had a lead generation agency before, I still send campaigns for free for some friends. And sometimes when I send campaigns, I get like 15% reply rates.
Yeah.
I think I shown you some.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, and that's because the offer is just really good, right? So that's the number one component for success. So yeah, that's, you can do the math. Like if you're getting like, a 15% reply rate, like that's, you can like multiply that in order to calculate how many emails you need to send to get like X number of replies. The second factor in order to succeed, I will say it's relevance. It's almost as important as the offer, but the offer I tested everything you can think of: deliverability, infrastructure, data providers, and everything. But just the offer is by far the most important thing. So the second again is relevance, and relevance means targeting someone at the right time. I mean, targeting the right person at the right time with the right offer. So once again, targeting someone at the right person at the right time means if you send me right now an email, right, about let's say diabetes pills. I don't have diabetes, right? So this is absolutely irrelevant for me, right? But it doesn't mean that I might not need it at some point in my life, right? So the timing is very.
I would say, God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid. You never know. But yeah, hopefully not. But it doesn't mean that at some point I might not need it, right? So the same happens with a lot of the offers out there, where they will just spray and pray, right?
Yeah.
And that is a big no-no. I think you should always try to find a way on how do I make sure that this offer is relevant for this specific audience right now. And there are times, for example, where like times of the year specifically, where some companies are ready to make a purchase. So for example, depending on the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in education, I think their procurement dates are usually at the beginning or mid of the year, because that's what the school year is about to start. And they prepare for the next year as well. So that it will just depend on industry, and that's why you need to know very well your industry so you understand their time. Now, one recommendation I have to people is to always make sure that they follow up, but they don't basically annoy people. What does annoying means? Sending 10 follow-ups, for example, right? If you send someone 3 follow-ups, let's say I send 1 cold email today, but then I send 2 more with a delay of like 3 to 5 days, right? Through a period of like 2 or 3 weeks, you will have contacted that person 3 times. That is enough, because that person already understands that you exist. They know you are offering whatever, right?
That's when you should reach out. After that, you should reach out to them on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a good idea. Exactly, because then you're exhausting basically all the channels to just remind them you exist. So they probably saw your message on LinkedIn, they saw it on email, they know you exist, right? So why aren't they getting back? The possibilities, if you did your segmentation well, the possibilities are that they're just not ready to buy it right now because it's just not their procurement timing. And then if you follow up again in, let's say, 3 more months, that person might be interested. So you follow the same process, let's say every 3 to 6 months, right? Where you send them 3 cold emails and 1 LinkedIn message or 2 LinkedIn messages. And you're testing that person until the procurement timing can come. And procurement timing can be because of various reasons. Maybe that person, in that specific time you're contacting them, they're just so busy with work that they just don't want to hear about anything else. Yeah. Maybe their wife is pregnant. God knows, right? So that is why people will have just different timings. Companies will have different timings, and that is why you keep following up and keep adding different channels. Right?
So you said 10-15% reply rate. Now,
that is like for really good offers, really good offers.
So I know I've done my fair share of cold emailing, and honestly, guys, I've never gotten a 10 or 15% reply rate. You know,
that's for really good offers. But
I feel like I'm more in the spray and pray category, but not quite. But what do you see, just like for reference? Because this is something I was always interested in. Like, what for reference? What is considered to be a good reply rate?
Right. I would say it's somewhere between the 1 and the 5%. I think 5 is really good.
For the sequence or for the
entire? Yeah. If you are like doing 5% just on the initial email, then your offer is really good and you definitely know what you're doing, right? So yeah, I think for the sequence overall, when you combine all the reply rates, like anywhere between 1 to 5%, usually like 2 to 5, actually, maybe 1 might be a little bit too low. Like between 2 to 5%, that is like a good reply rate. And then, so the way I tell people to structure this is you first focus on deliverability, and the reply rate will tell you if people are reading your emails, whether it's positive or negative, right? So people will start telling you, no, I'm not interested, or okay, tell me more, or no. So then the next metric you need to optimize is the positive reply rate. That means that not everybody who replies will tell you yes, right? So out of this 5% or 2 to 5%, maybe half of them will tell you yes. So you need to start working. How do I turn more of these no's into yeses? And then you're effectively improving your reply rate because you're just getting more people interested.
And I think everybody knows here, but tracking open rates is 2024.
Yes.
So, we're in 2025 now. Nobody tracks open rates anymore.
Yeah.
And neither should you.
Yes.
For me, with emailing, I was always kind of balancing between 2 things. The reply rate on one hand, but also how big my lead list is, or my TAM, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Because, if you have like 100,000 leads you want to go through, or then, if you want to really optimize to get closer to 5%, you're going to spend a lot of time focusing and optimizing something. And then you have to kind of, in my experience, you have to weigh where the more benefits are, depending also on your infrastructure. So if you're prepaid for an infrastructure that is able to send 10, 20,000 emails a day, and if you are spending too much time tweaking to get to that 5%, 4%, whatever, you have the infrastructure cost to consider, you have the lost opportunity cost to consider. So it's also like finding the balance between how big your outreach efforts are and the quality. So it's like quality, quantity, it's not one over the other, but it's a combination. It's a combination.
I agree with you. I think a lot of people, they want to start sending a lot of emails in one go very quickly. But I think what's important, and this is to all of you guys, you need to start testing a little bit before you go big or you go all in into this. And what I mean with testing is trying to find the right audience, trying to find the right message, trying to find just overall, like, start testing different variations, start testing just different offers, call to actions, and also try not to tell people, do you have time to meet right now? Because nobody has time to meet right now. We're all busy. Like, literally before this webinar, I think I told Alex, like, I'm gonna be here at 4, but then I was rushing because of meetings. So, I came a little bit later. So, we are just all busy running family, kids, wife, meetings. So it's just, we're all busy. So my main advice when it comes to this is try to always put yourself on the shoes of the other person. The other person is busy. The other person, they are a bit doubtful because everybody's pitching like they have the magic formula for things. So try to make sure that it's a very easy way for them to say yes, right? And usually when you ask for someone for a meeting, you're making it very difficult for them to say yes. So what could be an easy way for someone to say yes? Could I send you a list of, let's say, 100 people ready to buy your product, right? And these are very broad. But like, who wouldn't want that? Like, if someone like right now sent me a message and told me, can I send you right now this for free? And it's going to help you right now with your pain point, right now. And I'm not asking for anything back.
I like that. Sorry for jumping in. Yeah. I like that because it doubles down on what I've said about LinkedIn. Yeah. You can warm up the lead. Yeah. So basically, okay, I'm taking back my statement where I said with emails, you're pitching straight away. There is a way that you can warm your lead up. Give something, don't ask for it, build a cycle.
Yeah, but with LinkedIn, it's a little bit faster, I have to say, because imagine you see someone's face. Because with cold email is different. It's more like a little bit more impersonal. So I think the benefit of cold email is just how scalable it is. Whereas with LinkedIn, it's how personal it is. So imagine the personal component of LinkedIn combined with kindness. And with kindness, I mean generally trying to help someone where the other person doesn't feel like this person is not trying to get something from you, but rather trying to build a relationship for me. And this is something that I always tell people, whether it's call email, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it's cold calling, always try to build a relationship with people. Outreach channels are about getting to know each other, but it's not about closing a sale. Those times of closing a sale on the first communication, like the first message, the first call, the first LinkedIn message, email, whatever, those times are gone. Maybe they were like 10 or 20 years ago in Wolf of Wall Street or whatever. But like, that user will probably churn because that user did not get to know you and your product good enough in order for them to buy.
And something that I've seen, like that I've personally done, because I did also my fair share of like sales calls, early, like back in 2018, 17, when we were getting started, not for Aimfox, for a different product in the Instagram space. And I was often pushed to oversell by myself. So I was like, I'm like over-promising, overselling, and we were getting like good conversion rates. Like, like we were closing deals like crazy. And then month 1 comes, and all of a sudden, churn catches up. So it's definitely a complex topic, that has a lot of aspects to consider when you're offering and selling.
Yeah. Well, right now I think organizations are changing a lot. I think, if you look at how, for example, CEOs used to be hired before, what was the main criteria for hiring a CEO for a company? I would say 10 years ago, it was CFOs, right? You will want to hire a really good finance guy, because if you had a finance guy as a CEO, he will make sure to optimize your company financially as much as possible, right? Then the next trend was probably like salespeople, like let's say sales director, someone really good at sales, because that person could just focus on how to drive as much revenue or acquisition as possible for your company. And the trend I think we're seeing right now, as of today, like if a company had to choose on who to promote or hire as a CEO of a company, is a RevOps. And a RevOps is someone who understands not just acquisition and financials, but he understands the whole cycle of a client, from acquiring to retaining it to just making it more profitable.
That's a very good explanation. RevOps is something that I've seen like really flourish recently, and it's a new role. Like it's something that like it's a position that I really haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And that's a very good explanation of what the RevOps is. By the way, guys, like share in your comments what reply rates you get on your cold emailing campaigns. So 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, maybe 10%, share, and then we can do some sort of like analytics analysis afterwards to kind of see where everybody is. One more question I have for you is, how many emails should we send per one mailbox?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, it will depend on the infrastructure that you have. Also, how warm is your domain? And with warm, I mean how old, like how much reputation you have built with that domain. Because the one funny thing that happens with both LinkedIn and with email outreach is that you have to build a bit of a reputation, because either your mailbox or your domain can get shut down or blacklisted, or your LinkedIn profile could get blacklisted. If, let's say, you just spam like random people with like a really bad message or offer, your profile could get suspended. From what I heard, you guys crack the code and you barely have any suspensions, which is great. Like you usually do to users like who's abusing the platform, which is the same for cold email, really. Like we always tell people, like, if you send like a really bad message and offer, yeah, you're gonna get blacklisted if you put 10 links and whatever, right? But let's say you're following all the best practices, right? Let's say someone is following everything we tell them to. We have like 1,000 videos on our YouTube channel explaining everything. So like there are no excuses really. So if you follow all the recommendations, I would say, and you're using like a good email infrastructure provider, whether it's ours or another one, but it's reputable, I would say like safely you can send 20 to 30 cold emails per day.
Yeah.
Then you also have to send warm-up emails, like somewhere between 10 to 20. So I think under 50 emails per day, where half or a bit more than half are cold and the other are warm-up, you'll be absolutely fine. Personally, the campaigns I send, when I send like also 1,000 emails or a few thousands per day, they all follow that threshold. And yeah, I have no account suspensions, no domains blacklisted, so it all works fine.
And you mentioned domain age. Something that, I mean, I know me and you, we've talked about before, is the importance of domain age. And that brings me to my next question, well, that we've kind of already covered, but is like deliverability. What do you use to measure deliverability? And if you have issues in your infrastructure that might cause a lower deliverability. Just for context, by deliverability, I mean your emails are not hitting the primary inbox, so they're either going to spam or like promotions or whatever.
Yeah, great question. So look, deliverability is very complex. Okay, so whoever promises you a magical formula to solve this is probably lying to you and to anyone out there. So just always be mindful of that. Usually, like the main components of like increasing the chances of landing on the inbox are text only. That means not including any links, not including HTML. Just send the emails as text. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because Google and Outlook, they basically control the market pretty much, right? And they define the rules, and they have to protect their users from not receiving scam or phishing emails overall, right? So if you send an email that is text only, the likelihood of let's say hiding a virus in that email is very slim, right? It's almost close to none. So that is why they will always prioritize a text only email. So that is the reason why. So whenever you have a client that is like, no, I don't want to send text only, I want to put my links. Well, you explained them these technical reasons. This is pretty much it's a safety reason by the infrastructure providers. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is people's attention span. So your copy and your message has to be short and sweet, and this is correlated to also how people report your emails as spam. And if people start reporting your emails as spam, it will start flagging your domains, and they get blacklisted, and then they go to the spam folder. So also in the same area, you have the people you're targeting, so segmentation and the offer. If they're bad, people will report your spam, deliverability, syncs, and so on. So answering your question, how do I check deliverability, what domain age, and so on? So you have different ways, right? My favorite one, or actually the two methods that you should use, one of them is always keep an eye on reply rates. If you see reply rate sinking, it could be because it's just a momentary thing, because let's say it's like Thanksgiving in the US or something like that, or Christmas in like most of the world, or Ramadan, whatever. And that could be one reason. The second reason could be that you just got blacklisted. And how do you check that? You could use something called inbox placement test. We have them built into tools like Instantly. You have other external providers that also do inbox placement. The way inbox placement works is we have inboxes here. You send us an email, and then we check the inbox if the email went to the spam or the inbox. And then we have a bunch of those email accounts. So we check, let's say, 10 or 100 of those. And so we basically check the inbox of each one of them against each one of the inboxes that you're sending emails from. And that way we see if the message you're sending is being flagged as spam, if the domain that you have is has been also blacklisted or flagged as well. And ultimately, when it comes to domain age, we recommend people to warm up their email accounts for, let's say, somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks. And the reason for that is very simple. So domain providers or domain registers like name.com, Namecheap, GoDaddy, Parkbon, all of those guys, they're interconnected with basically the blacklist, like Spam House and all of those guys. They're all interconnected and sharing information. And thanks God they're doing that, right? We actually love those guys. We support them, because they keep our inboxes clean from real spam, right? I think none of us here, like on this webinar and in this room, we don't want to spam people. We want to send them like proper business opportunities, right? But there are people that really send spammy emails, like like weird emails that just like that you wonder
and remember those selling Viagra emails?
Oh yes, yes,
yes. It can get pretty wild.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just weird emails.
Yeah.
So thankfully, those spam lists, domain registers, they're always trying to keep our inboxes clean from those kind of harmful emails. And so what they do is they keep track on sending spikes. And what is the sending spikes? Let's say one day you're just sending 10 emails, and then the next day you're sending 1,000. That is a sending spike. That is weird for the domain register. So they will inform each other, hey, so the way it will go is the domain register will tell the spam list, this domain was created 10 days ago, and it's just sending thousands of emails. That is super weird, right? Because they want to prevent a spammer from just all of a sudden popping up, sending thousands of emails and then disappearing.
Burning the domain and then
Exactly.
restart.
Exactly. So you pretty much have to build reputation with your domain. So that's something we call domain age. So the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're building reputation with the registers, you're building reputation out there. So you warm up your email accounts. Warm up is basically creating engagements that are usually made with AI, with tools like Instantly. And that way you are less likely to land on the spam. So the older your domain overall, and just to summarize all of this, the older the domain, the more likely you are to land on the spam folder. And I think it's kind of funny how similar this is to LinkedIn, because it's the same with LinkedIn. Like the more old your LinkedIn account is, the more connections you have, the more warm up your account is, the less likely to get flagged, the more likely people are to trust you. So it's very interesting.
But by default, like for the biggest part, like our users don't have an issue with that, because currently when you look at the LinkedIn outreach space, everybody is using like their own personal LinkedIn accounts that they've had for a long while.
Yeah.
So when a LinkedIn account comes to AimFox or any other solution out there, unless the software you're using is doing something wrong, in general, you're going to be okay, because that is a well-established LinkedIn account. But something that that you've kind of mentioned earlier that we're working hard on cracking, that we've cracked, is the ability to really scale your LinkedIn outreach in a similar way you would do it for cold emailing. But there it gets complex because it's time consuming and it's time taking.
I think no one has really solved it yet.
No, not really, not at scale.
But I know you guys are working there.
Yeah, we are, and everything, everything we do at scale. Okay. So sometimes it takes a moment to get there, but when we get there, it's there. So but yeah, there will definitely be some exciting news on that front soon. So for everybody that's here, I wasn't actually planning on talking about this.
I'm sorry, I think I just spilled the beans. I probably
spilled the beans, man.
Yeah, but I'm creating hype now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So but this is definitely for me like the biggest issue I see with LinkedIn outreach is, again, as I said, scalability. And I think that is something that service providers such as AimFox need to focus on solving. So, yeah, like I see. So I saw here that one of our is 8.2% reply rate on 125,000 emails. Like, dude, like reach out to us, man. Like, like I need your help.
Yeah, that's great.
Those are some legit numbers, but I also see some other people sharing, 9.4 last 3 months, 10K emails. Those are you guys are on the right track.
Yeah, those guys are like top 1%.
Yeah.
I mean, not top 1, but maybe top 10%. I think that's the thing. Once you finally found a winning strategy and you scale that, it's not uncommon to get those kind of results. But you know what? Then there comes the next problem. Okay, so I like to be very transparent with people, and the next problem is how do you turn people who reply into actual clients? And that is an issue that a lot of people have. They're like, okay, I have 100 positive replies. That's it. They're close. No, actually, no, that's not it. You still have to follow with those people to turn into clients. Yep. And I think that's where interconnecting channels is working really, really well. And I'm seeing a trend right now where the new top agencies, I was literally having a call with a friend of mine and also agency owner called Dan Rosenthal, great guy. If he's watching, like, hey there. And he was telling me how he's working now in building a product connected, related to workflows, right? So the workflows means having different channels interconnected and where they all work as part of a marketing funnel. And this is something that I have been telling people already for a while, where it will be a little bit responsible of me to say cold email is the only channel. You send cold emails and that's going to generate sales, because that's not true. I think cold email is a great strategy for creating awareness, for reminding people that you exist, but you need to interconnect it with other different channels, right? And it needs to be part of a funnel. Whether you retarget that people when they visit your website, whether a winning strategy I'm seeing with lead generation agencies, for example, is they have an automation where they will, let's say, email their entire TAM, because it's so easy to scale, with cold emails, a bunch of people, and then they get 200 positive replies, and they have an automation that sends those people a message via LinkedIn, and their conversion rates skyrocket because. And with conversion rates, I mean people who actually buy the product.
Who buy the product.
Because then they build a relationship with LinkedIn. And you know what these agencies tell me is, okay, let's say this person doesn't buy now, but now they're part of my LinkedIn contacts. Exactly. And if I start posting content, I'm going to be reminding them that I exist. And at some point, they might reach out again and be like, oh, I forgot I told you I was interested. Okay, I'm ready to buy now.
And that's one of the great things with LinkedIn. Once you get them into your connections, and usually, if you're just sending out connection requests to leads that are relevant, for which you have a good offer, you're going to see a 50-60% acceptance rate. And that's the first step. That's the first foot in the door. But then you have them in your first connections. Once you have them there, with the AimFox, for example, you can automate campaigns to your existing connections as well. But more importantly, you can filter and identify leads that have originated from different sources, so you really know who to target. So, I mean, LinkedIn has definitely its advantages, for that kind of stuff. Let's see if we have some more interesting questions here.
I'm always happy to see these success stories. People
if anybody is at 10%, add them to the webinar. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
For sure. Yeah.
Maybe you should have a competition next time. Whoever gets killed with a reply rates, they get to jump on the webinar.
Yeah. Exactly. I see Ksenia has been very busy. She's been answering a lot of the answers. Okay, so Ksenia pointed out a good question here. So our CMO has cited that cold email is too saturated, reply rates too low, etc., to make it worth the squeeze anymore. We have halted all email now, focusing our outreach, including LinkedIn. What tools, starting point, would you suggest as a restart to get enough data to show that email is in fact not dead?
That's a great question, and it's actually
Spot on.
it's a problem that we are seeing right now with emails, and actually not emails, like I said, like with most of marketing channels, people are being bombarded today with different channels. So my recommendation there would be to potentially, I mean, it obviously I will need to understand deeper, like how you guys are sending cold emails, because no offense, obviously, to your CEO or CMO, but sometimes I get people telling me, "Oh, cold email is dead," and then when I audit their strategy, they don't even verify their databases, and then they have like a 20% bounce rate, and that burns the entire campaign.
And it's over before it started.
Right. So, or they go very cheap with data, or they go very cheap with email infrastructure. So there are a lot of flying parts in this. So my recommendation to you will be to get like an expert who could audit your entire sequence, or even get like a really good agency to send cold emails for you. You know, someone you heard that they get good results, and that way you can confirm that that channel is just not going to work for you guys or your specific offer. But in the meantime, testing LinkedIn outreach, great strategy. And it's such, especially if you see it working, absolutely go for it. Because I think it's easier to, I think LinkedIn outreach is easier to crack because you don't have so many flying pieces.
It's true. I think you don't have so many assumptions or hypotheses you need to validate. Because with cold emailing, there's like domains, emailing, mailboxes, copy fatigue, lead verification. It's very complex.
You have like the spam folder. I mean, in LinkedIn, you don't have a spam folder, right?
Right. So like, on LinkedIn, honestly, it's quite straightforward, because we on the back end, we make sure, our job is just to make sure that everything functions and works. So like, you can send links directly in your message on LinkedIn, because and you're not going to get penalized for it.
Yeah.
But again, these things tend to change. So this is true now. It might not be true in 6 months.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to add on your point for cold emailing, I think cold, and you should talk with your CMO about this, is I think cold emailing should not be a standalone act.
Yeah.
It should be part of a greater marketing strategy that you guys do. You mentioned some tools, for example, that help you identify users that visited your website, like RB2B, an awesome tool. We're building an integration with them, by the way.
Nice.
You just need to have a broad strategy, of which cold emailing is a part of.
Yeah.
You should also look at the re-engagement, but not only through emails and follow-ups. There are other ways to re-engage leads. So I think like it's becoming more and more complex to do, because it all needs to be part of one funnel that pushes the lead towards a goal. So, there are a lot of touch points, like emailing, LinkedIn, Google ads, retargeting ads, social media, lead visitors, because if somebody visits your website, those are the really warm leads.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also, just to add there, well, now the technical barrier is becoming more and more like it's just going down, right? But I think one thing or strategy you could try is whatever tool you're using for sending your cold emails, if it has an API, you can connect that API, let's say, to ChatGPT or let's say Claude, and then you can ask Claude or like make an automation via NHN. It's not as difficult as it sounds, trust me. Or get a developer to help you with that, and then that way you can prompt and ask ChatGPT or ask Claude to do an analysis of your campaigns, and it will very accurately tell you what you need to improve. So that way you could save money on hire an external consultant. I think that could be like a affordable option there in order to make it work. But I have to say that, I mean, looking at the results from some of the people out there and looking at my own campaign, like the reason why I love sending cold emails campaigns myself is because I like to eat my own food, and I like to practice what I preach. And so far, the majority of the times, the reasons why cold email doesn't work is because the best practices are not being followed, or simply it just doesn't specifically work for that offer. And that could happen. Like, I know people that do SEO, and SEO is just so saturated that, sometimes some people might, or like Webflow development, or like those offers are just very saturated. So unless you have really good databases, like let's say you have a database of everyone who attended a conference and they're interested in Webflow development, or you get a database somehow that is people that you know are interested, cold email will 100% work there. But if you are just trying to just send a cold email to, let's say, 1,000 CEOs of companies that recently raised money, even that is not enough, because you have 100 other people sending a cold email offering their Webflow service. So you need to think, how do I stand out? Once you crack the code on the deliverability and the technical aspect, which could be a big reason why maybe your emails and campaigns are not working. But if you have that nailed down, the other component could be market saturation, like we said. And so you need to think, how do I stand out? How do I get better data in order to target people interested?
And also, one thing I want to put emphasis on is that, like, for example, Instantly is not just an email sequencer, or just a Unibox. They give you a lot of these advanced options, other than like inbox placement, which is, by the way, I forgot to say, is an awesome feature that I've used and works. But it all Instantly also gives you the option to get data, to filter data, to identify those leads. Same as for AimFox. Like with AimFox, you said, like, hey, everybody that attended a certain event, Webflow event. With AimFox, you have an option to do like a event campaign where you target people.
Oh, you can scrape people from events?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So exactly. So for example, everybody that is at this event
can be scraped.
Exactly. And for example, Felipe, you can do a follow-up with them. You can connect with them, and you can send them a message and thank them for joining. So there are, it's not only about building a tool that lets you send outbound.
Yeah.
It's about building something that gives you a variety of options, but also educating our users on how to succeed.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but for me, like, one of the reasons that we're running these webinars is because I want to give to our audience, for one, I want to give them a broader understanding of marketing and outbound in general. Today we're talking about cold emailing. Next week we're going to be talking about cold calling and using AI for cold calling. And even if it's not like, we're not going to, like, AimFox is not benefiting from that. We're never going to do cold calling
for the users.
But it's the value for users, because we want to give them the options and so they can really understand, like, what's on the table and what the latest trends are.
Yeah, no, that's just some great advice right there. And yeah, much respect to you guys for doing that. Speaking of cold calling, I think that might be a good next webinar. I might join that webinar as an attendee, so I'll be asking questions live. But it's kind of funny. Like, I saw this, mass panic regarding iOS or Apple now, sort of like basically checking on spam callers and asking them to describe their services so people can see what the call is about before they actually even answer, which is awesome, because we all hate spam calls. So I think that will, it's the same as cold email, it's the same as other channels. Once the channel gets a little bit burned, the providers have the responsibility of just like making sure that the right people use the channel. So that's why I am happy when email providers, or in this case, call providers or calling providers, they are sort of like making sure that people don't abuse these channels, because if you have a really good offer, you will stand out, right? Yeah. And then it keeps all the spammers out. Yeah. And if right now, let's say you receive a cold call, and then you have iOS turned on, which will now make a summary of who is calling before you even answer a call, and it says something like, let's say Robert wants to give you 100 free attendees from this conference you were looking for. But I want to answer this call. This is interesting.
Good point.
Why not?
It's not going to be bad by default.
No, it's just going to save you time, basically.
And it's just going to filter out all the garbage. Yeah. And you are going to be more likely to pick up. Yeah. Just like a quick blast from the past. In 2017, when we started with our first brand, Flock Social, for Instagram. And I remember we had a very good offer. We had very good leads, and we built a way, basically a sequencer, to send text messages.
Nice.
And when you get those things, so it was something that like there wasn't a service doing this, so we developed this in-house.
You've always been innovative.
Yeah, but this time, this is, I mean, thanks to this, we are where we are at today. Because when we started in 2017, we grew from zero, like literally zero, to 80K MRR, or like 1 million ARR in like 2 months.
Right.
You know, and it was just me and Nicola, my co-founder, and we were like,
congratulations.
we're like, whoa, this is it. But that was like when you strike something like before people do, you get to reap the benefits.
Right.
What happened is very soon after that, like phone carriers started limiting messages. They started limiting links that you're sending. Then iPhones said, okay, if you're receiving a text message from somebody who's not in your contacts, and if that message has a link, that link is not going to be clickable. And then all of a sudden, bam, 5x our conversion rates go down.
And now
so
if you send now an SMS that you're spamming people, you can get big fines now.
Yeah, exactly. And in the meanwhile, because it was being abused by a lot of people selling Viagra, and
that's good actually, because you know, my parents, you know, like they're like 70 something years old. I don't want them to get like a link, like, you know, a fake link or a fake spam call or whatever.
Exactly.
You know, like I just want them to relax, not to be targeted or scammed. So at the end of the day, this is just to protect users.
It's not about like spam. It's, as you said, like, you know, it's about targeted outreach.
Yeah.
And, you know, for that specific campaign, we were targeting Instagram businesses that had between 5 and 10,000 followers.
Nice.
And our value proposition for them was to help them cross the 10,000 follower mark. Because if you remember, 10,000 followers was the limit that you needed for the swipe up link in your stories.
Yes, yeah.
So you have the value proposition, you have the targeting, because we know these are businesses on Instagram, and then you have a good deliverability, and that's what it's all about. It's regardless of what platform you use, it's always the same thing. That doesn't change.
It doesn't change. That's why I always tell people, like I usually tell them, take these recommendations and apply them across all of your marketing channels. They all should work together in synergies. Never believe like someone offering you like the magical formula. And, you know, always try to think that you, at the end of the day, you're working with people, and try to put yourself on the shoes of the other person. You know, like don't try to scam people. Don't try to be like Wall Street. Try to really deliver value and help people, and people will really remind kindness. You know, like, actually, that's why I like Alex a lot and Nicola. They're just great guys. They always are trying to help people. You know, I remember when they took me for lunch the first time, amazing food, amazing rest. And you remember these things. You remember who was kind to you. So you try to like reciprocate it. So,
well, you were kind to us today, to the whole audience behind the screens. And I think we're at 58 minutes. I think we can slowly let Felipe go. Thank you so much for joining us here today. There are a gazillion more topics and questions we can always talk about. And I'm sure we are going to have an opportunity to talk about them more in the future. And yeah, thank you for being our guest and for willing to share some of your knowledge and bird-eye perspective on everything.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. And yeah, make sure to tune in the next webinar. This was great. So I'm going to tune in as a guest.
By the way, I almost forgot, special promotion. you have to close these webinars with a good CTA, you know. Everybody that's on this webinar that has not tried AimFox, we're going to give $100 of credits for you to try. So, you know, AimFox only costs $39 a month per LinkedIn account. So this gives you a decent amount of time to try the tool, regardless of the 7-day free trial we have.
That's awesome.
So
I can get the offer too, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'll pay for it. You know, one thing and this is for anyone out there, whenever you have a friend that is running a business, I always like to pay the full price, because that's how you help their business. So, and
that's true. You don't need to pay the full price, but I agree with that, especially with people starting out. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And looking forward to more cool webinars coming up. And please say thank you to Felipe in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.